Welcome to the Grand Shorts, a part of the Grand Podcast. The Grand. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grand. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. This episode is part of my shorts format. It is episode number 5 in my Research Management short series. Stephanie Harfensteller is EU Research Coordinator at 4 an der RWTH in Aachen. It is the ICT Institute of the massive technical university RWTH in Aachen, Germany. Some years ago, Stephanie started to push for a strategy to attract more EU funding to the institute, but that takes some time to mature in the research world. She was stubborn and managed to convince management of the added value in a structured approach. We agreed to make a short series with focus on this process and giving tips and tricks to other research institutes who go through the same process. Here in the 5th episode, we have a conversation about how to get impact thinking integrated into your strategy, which brings your strategy to a whole new solid depth. Please enjoy. The Grand. Welcome to the Grand, the EU funding podcast. We are on a roll here, recording episodes for the Research Management short series. I have Stephanie Harfensteller with me here. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Niels. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, me too. And we now you out there, you will listen to this. This is an episode. The short episodes you get once per month, but we are recording them in a row, so that's why it's very cozy here, cozy tone. Now, Stephanie, dear listeners, we are recording this short research management short series to open up and fold out how Stephanie Harfensteller here have facilitated to work with concretely implementing a strategy on research management in the Research Institute in 4 an der RWTH Aachen in Germany. So, Stephanie, maybe you shortly introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Stephanie Harfensteller. I'm an EU research coordinator at FIR, and I'm embedded into our research management department for 2 years now. And before that, I was building up the EU research capacities at our institute. And the FIR at RWTH Aachen is a Applied Research Institute as part of the Johannes Rau Forschungsgemeinschaft, so research community, and it focuses on developing next generation strategies and unlock the potential of new and proven technologies to keep the German industry competitive, both in North Rhine-Westphalia and globally. And we focus a lot on sustainability and value creating systems by uniting production and services in a smart circular economy. So I'm happy to be here again, Niels.
Yes, you are doing these things you explained. It fits very well with what the EU is funding. So it's which why it's of course makes a lot of sense why you've been engaging so much in upscaling the institute in with EU funding capacities. This is also how we met, of course, many years ago.
I am Vladiana. I listen to the Grand and Social Duo. Also, I am the winner of the Grand Mag.
Yes. Stephanie, this episode we're going to. This is the 5th episode for you out there, and we're going to talk about integrating impact thinking into research management. That's the title of this episode. So maybe you take on. So the first blog I got here, it's incorporating impact goals. So maybe you say a few words to introduce this issue, Stephanie.
Yes. So that's very European, right? To focus on the impact. And for us, it's in two directional on the I think, because on the one hand, the impact is driven to our core business, which is providing research outputs for industry and gaining research inputs from industry. So the impact is imminent in our research, in the way we do research, but it has to follow, and there we come back a bit, to the a strategy, a research strategy for the institute as well. And so we very strategically focus on choosing research proposals in Horizon that match on the one hand with our research strategy, but also where the Horizon projects will enhance our research strategy by the focus they are giving us. So it's a I hope I explained it well. It's a two-sided process. There are requirements given to us by the EU, but we are also giving back because we also have our own research focus and are kind of influencing the way research topics are drawn within the European cosmos. At least we try. And that's the one side. And then the other side is how we gain, as I said before, inputs from industry and providing outputs to industry, focusing on, as I said before, circularity and how to actually make it into business, changing businesses and business models to become future competitive on a European scale. And yes, I think that's said. And if you think both together, then you have also the societal impact, which is really important because it secures jobs, it secures European competitiveness, it secures that we're developing towards a more sustainable and circular community or European economy and social system. Yeah, so we're trying to incorporate that into our research activities, that we take care of all these elements when choosing research proposals.
Yeah, now this is curious because this you have your research teams, and the researchers, they are focused on their, this is their career, right? So they go for these things that are of their professional interest in the research they do. Now, so if they need funding for this, they wouldn't shift. You get my drift where I'm going. They would, say, okay, this is the focus I have in my research, and I would like to have funding for that. So they and this is often the clash you have from research side, from researchers, specific research teams, that in the EU funding context, often you have broader elements put into it, like societal elements, or like these, but they often they don't have that focus in the individual research team or with the individual researcher. So how do you work with this? Because if they just want to fund the research.
Yeah, absolutely.
They
right.
don't care. Why do we have to include this? Leave me in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you how do you work with this stuff? Because it needs to make sense also for the research, the whole organization of the whole research organization that you are. Okay, there's a focus on sustainability in the funding that comes out and so on. Okay, and here we do things that, okay, maybe sometimes we also work with the steel industry on, that maybe not everything is focused on sustainability, but it's important for our research teams to work with it. How do you work with this?
Well, we always have a kickoff meeting where they pitch their research idea, and what they want to do research on. And then we ask them about exactly these other factors like sustainability, gender dimension, etc., and how they want to incorporate it. And I'm pretty happy that they are quite adaptable. So they have to sometimes they breathe out very heavily, but then they start thinking about it. And I think, so it's my personal opinion. Yeah, my personal opinion is it's. I mean, they still want to focus on their research, and that's totally fine. But the complexity of their research problems is increasing, and then of course the impact when they also think about these aspects. And I think we are still in a university system where a lot of more interdisciplinary research needs to happen. And that's why you need consortia to address complex research topics. And you need to find a balance between being very expert on your research field, but also being able to incorporate the, I think, important factors that are driving impact in a multi-level way. So I always try to work these factors out together with them, and most of the time they just simply say, "Well, I didn't think about this," and I have a lot of fun actually to
Thank you for
engage
coming and
in
annoying me with these things.
So maybe to give a visual example, we have a really great EU research project that we're coordinating right now on a multimodal transport. So how to combine ships with trucks and trucks and trains to build a more resilient transport system. And then came the gender dimension. And they were saying, like, listen, this is silly. We just focus on how to transport goods across Europe. Where is there a gender dimension to it? And then I did some research on it because it was really complex. And we kind of discovered that through this multimodality, actually the job as a lorry driver or driving or navigating ships becomes more attractive to women because the working hours are shorter. And that was like okay, I didn't think of that. So and there you have your impact, but you have to either find people who can show you this additional impact of your research, or you need to have a research management department that guides you through these aspects, because they are a precondition of getting funded. So it's not an easy process. For sure.
No, it's not, and it bridges us into the next block, strategies for outcomes. Fordi I just use the Danish word, strategies for outcomes, because outcomes, of course, for a research institute engaged in EU funding is to drag home some external funding. Yeah. So what we just been talking about is to giving your researchers and research teams a better chance to get funding home, because they have reflected properly over the things that you need to reflect on in an EU project. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then when it comes to outcomes, and there we talk about long-term also outcomes, the challenge is that you have one researcher doing this research project, and then you didn't solve the research project yet, the research problem yet. So you need to build up follow-up activities, because that way it actually becomes a program character, and you become closer to having a long-term impact and actually solving the research puzzle. And that requires either to think into the direction of how can I use these research outputs and engage them in national funding schemes that are maybe smaller in the size of the consortium, or have a different focus, or I want to engage into innovation activities, as we discussed before, entrepreneurial activities. So it's not always about, so when you think about writing the proposal for a new project, you don't only think about these 3 years where you do the project, but you have in mind how this will impact, there we're back to impact a bit, but the research strategy and where you want to go to in the long run. So I always think of it as just one milestone within a larger context. Like you wouldn't reach circular economy by just doing one project. You need to have projects that build up on each other. And that's difficult, as we talked to each other before, because every researcher has his own focus. So you need this research strategy, and you need to have a bigger compass where you want to go to in order to reach that target.
Mhm.
And that will make it sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you, so did you, so now this is a leading question. Did you develop a strategy on outcome?
Yes. So our
My best guess is that you have, because we just have to.
yes, so we did that in recent years by realigning all of our research departments and giving them an overall meta research strategy, so to say.
Mhm.
So our main research goal is to enable the value creating circular economy. So that's kind of the framework that we are giving, and all research activities need to support this overall research strategy from different angles. So like from production management, from business transformation aspects, from service management, from IT management, or information management. All of these departments, all the projects that are we are trying to win, always you have to ask the question, how does this support our overall research strategy? And that way we want to achieve more impact, more sustainable research, and actually coming closer to solving that research puzzle that we want to achieve, value adding or value creating circular economy.
Yeah, but that's, if we now we have two elements. I perfectly understand the enthusiasm about creating a better society, but there's also a world of the institute and each individual research team, and like supporting them, and then that's that success. I guess that you have defined some sort of measures or anything in relation to EU funding approach for each research team, or have you done something like this that is linked to the overall that you just mentioned? But have you linked that to how each research is dealing with this?
Well, in a sense, yes, that's how we screen calls. So before we were more focused on, this could be something that we can relate to and that where we could do research on. So it was quite scattered on different topics. And now we scout we screen EU calls for that overarching aim. Like, I mean, circular economy is very easy because it's almost everywhere now in the calls. But we try to really screen those calls where we say, oh, this is a perfect fit to what we want to do. And we only go for calls that apply to that, those like internal rules that we focus on this topic.
Now, as a research manager,
yes,
do you do the intelligence on, so the call intelligence on which calls are maybe not so sought after?
Yes.
This kind of calls here, maybe we won't have so many applications, so the success rate will be higher.
Yes, I do that. Yeah. And there are so many different measures you can take to do that. So that's very important input I can give now. And I had some colleagues that are really surprised by the measures that I take. So they are, of course, first content driven. And there I look not for proposals that scream circular economy, but that have it incorporated in them. And I look across all clusters because it's a cross-cutting issue. And I'm trying to identify calls that have it integrated in their calls, but it's not one of those very popular ones that where you see like for the info days. That's one measure I take. I look at the ones where more questions are raised, because then you can see that more people are interested in these kind of call topics. Though that's something I do. I try to monitor the research manager community or the research community, how they react to the calls from the commission. And I'm trying to scout that. That's one.
But it's very, very important to understand as a research management when you develop a research management in strategy, because all the other things that you're doing here, of course, that's everyone or most people would attack it with a little knowledge, like in the same sort of manner or way, yeah. But it's the devil is in the detail with these things, because understanding. If you have a call that is likely to receive 50 proposals, or having a call that is likely to receive 5 proposals, that understanding that is vital for supporting your outcome strategy.
And it's difficult because you shouldn't stray too far away from your research interest, even if you know that this is a niche topic, or you need to shape it in a way. And therefore, EU proposals are very grateful, because they are so framed quite openly. But yes, you have to kind of identify measures that are important to you as an institute, how to be most efficient, because especially if you're smaller, you cannot write a huge amount of EU research proposals all the time. You don't have the capacities for it. So that's one of the strategies. But I also look, for example, for deadlines when they are. I also look for the background of the calls. That's really important. Which policies are behind it? Is it driven more from the commission or from interest representation groups? Because then the audience is larger. These kind of things. So I try to do a lot of preparation work before I hand over the call to the researchers and propose it to them, if it fits their research idea. And I also call up the NCPs, and we mentioned it before, COVI, which is the organization from the German
research
managers. Yeah, and they have a lot of inside knowledge because they're based in Brussels. So yeah, I'm trying to gain as much intelligence as I can before we start writing one of those proposals.
And this is one of the things about research management and research managers. This is one of the invisible things that can be difficult for a manager, an institute manager, to see if you don't mention it, because it's something that can be vital, but it's not necessarily something that, okay, so you did some research on the internet. It's very important to understand that this is something that it can be so important to understand this for your overall success strategy or success. You need to have some sort of propulsion forward with your research management strategy, that we all understand that you can't just stand still or go backwards. But this part of it is intelligence is very, very important.
Yes, and that's also something that I wouldn't want to burden on the researchers, because that's way too far away from what they want to do. It's actually, I have the feeling it's ensuring them and it motivates them to go for the call because they know what they're heading for and they rely on this intelligence when writing the proposal.
Marie Latour, listener of the ground since several years, so listen to the ground.
No, it's a short episode, so we need to move on to the next and last block. But I guess we covered that quite well. So the last block we have here, Stephanie, impact-driven research. Do you have any examples of this? How you concrete, like example of research teams or researchers where they follow this approach?
Yes. So one example is of the Remonet project that I mentioned before, the multimodal transport project, because that actually came from a national initiative where we did a very successful project, and we kind of identified that there's more impact to reach if we roll it out on European level. So we decided together with a company that was quite close to us, to our ecosystem, that we want to apply for EU research funding. And we won the project. So it was really successful and in a way was strongly impact driven because they said, listen, if we want to focus on multimodal transport routes across Europe, then we need to do a European project with it. And it helped the company to scale up. And for us, it was great because from a previous research initiative in Germany, we managed to scale it up to European level.
Right.
So that was really cool. And we are about to do the same for a project talking about research strategy, because that was a while back, that will focus on the circularity aspect. So, for example, we have a national project that's been really successful and been a bit of a lighthouse project in our institute, which focuses on remanufacturing of white goods together with a strong industrial partner. And we're thinking about ways to support this project with side initiatives to build it up further, because we see just the potential and more research questions being generated out of that research project, where we see like, okay, we can do this and that from this project, and we want to build this up even further. And we're applying for more grants that would drive the impact even further. And it has a lot of impact also on our research strategy to think this further for the circular economy perspective that we have. So and that always comes back to having being very concrete, to have sit downs with the researchers from the research management team and discuss where they want to go, what is their next research focus, where they see how we can build up on the previous research that they have done, and then figure out in which direction they want to go further, and then find the right calls to support this.
Yeah, and you just did the last pin here, the practical tools on how to embed it. Yeah, but it's important to have sort of something concrete that people can take with them. So that's actually a nice outro, because we reached the end of this episode. So thanks, Stephanie, for this round. We will see each other in 2 minutes when we will record the sixth and for now final episode. But for now, thanks for listening to the end with this episode. I will not do the normal outro here, because then it will be much longer. So I will do that in the outro text. I will speak in the end. So Stephanie, thanks for now. And let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You will find a link to the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Stephanie's personal LinkedIn site and to Fee on the RWTH Aachen. Further, there will be a link to the rest of the Research Management short series. And remember, the Grant Meetup is coming up this Friday in Brussels on the 26th, 5 o'clock on Place Luxembourg for chats, drinks, and EU fun. It's going to be fantastic. Now, next episode in the Grant Shorts series will be released 20th of October with the next recording in the Research Management short series. That is the final episode where we zoom in on securing that your strategy doesn't wither away, but becomes an integrated part of the organization's overall strategy. The Grand